Brock Edward Lesnar entered the world on July 12, 1977, in the quiet farming community of Webster, South Dakota, a town where life revolved around hard work, self-reliance, and simple values. The Lesnar family owned a dairy farm, and Brock's childhood was defined by long days that began before the crack of dawn. While other kids his age were still asleep, Brock was up milking cows, feeding animals, and taking on whatever tasks needed to be done to keep the family farm running smoothly. His parents, Richard and Stephanie Lesnar, were strict but supportive, instilling in their children the kind of toughness that could only be learned by doing, whether that meant working through bitter cold winters or laboring under the hot Midwestern sun. These experiences did more than just make Brock strong. They forged a mindset built on discipline, sacrifice, and resilience, lessons that would carry him through every stage of his athletic career. As a boy, Brock was noticeably larger and more powerful than most of his peers, but size alone didn't define him. From a young age, he displayed rare coordination and agility for someone of his frame. On the farm, the heavy lifting and constant activity turned his body into a natural machine, while at school, sports became the perfect outlet for his boundless energy. He gravitated toward both football and wrestling, excelling in both arenas. But it was wrestling that began to set him apart. Competing on the mats, Brock found an arena where raw power could be refined into skill, where brute force needed to be combined with technique and strategy. Even in those early years, he wasn't just beating opponents. He was overwhelming them with a mixture of strength, explosiveness, and relentless intensity. Amateur Wrestling Foundation. By the time he reached Webster High School, Brock was already a standout athlete. His coaches saw in him what few wrestlers possessed, a combination of incredible size and shocking quickness. He dominated the heavyweight division, often overpowering opponents with ease, but it was his sheer determination that separated him from others. Wrestling wasn't just a sport to Brock, it was an obsession. He trained tirelessly, always looking for ways to sharpen his craft. His natural aggression and competitive drive made him a feared competitor on the mats, and his success quickly caught the attention of collegiate scouts. After high school, Brock began his college wrestling career at Bismarck State College in North Dakota, where his dominance only grew. He overwhelmed regional competition, piling up victories with a mix of brute force and surprising agility. But Brock had bigger ambitions, and his talent soon earned him a transfer to the University of Minnesota, one of the most prestigious wrestling programs in the country. It was there that Brock truly made his mark. Training under legendary coach Jay Robinson, he pushed himself to levels he hadn't known before, facing elite competition that forced him to evolve beyond just raw power. In 2000, his relentless work paid off when he captured the NCAA Division I Heavyweight Wrestling Championship, a crowning achievement that solidified his place as one of the nation's top amateur wrestlers. What stood out about Brock during this period wasn't just his victories, but the manner in which he earned them. He wasn't content with scraping by or edging out wins. He sought to dominate, to impose his will on opponents until there was no doubt who the better wrestler was. His style combined explosive takedowns with suffocating top control, making him a nightmare matchup for anyone in the heavyweight class. But perhaps even more importantly, Brock learned discipline, precision, and patience, the ability to pace himself in matches, to stay composed under pressure, and to use strategy as well as power. These skills would prove invaluable when he made the transition to professional wrestling and later mixed martial arts. The leap into WWE fresh off his collegiate success, Brock found himself at a crossroads. He had the amateur credentials to potentially chase Olympic dreams, but his future lay in another arena, professional wrestling. WWE scouts had taken notice of the young powerhouse, and in 2000, he signed a developmental deal with the company. From the start, it was clear that Brock was unlike any prospect they had ever seen. His physique looked carved out of granite. His movements were explosive, and he carried himself with the intensity of someone who knew he was destined for greatness. When Brock debuted on WWE television in 2002, the impact was immediate. Fans and wrestlers alike could sense they were witnessing something rare. WWE quickly branded him the next big thing, and he delivered on the promise. His size and speed made him look like a video game character come to life, and his suplex-heavy offense left opponents and audiences stunned. Only a few months into his main roster run, he defeated The Rock at SummerSlam 2002, becoming one of the youngest WWE champions in history. His early years in WWE were a whirlwind of success. Feuds with established stars like Kurt Angle, Big Show, and The Undertaker gave Brock the platform to showcase not just his physical dominance, but also his ability to adapt and evolve in the ring. Against Kurt Angle, an Olympic gold medalist, Brock displayed technical wrestling ability that proved he wasn't just muscle. He could grapple with the very best. Against giants like Big Show and The Undertaker, he showed he had the toughness to withstand punishment and the strength to topple larger-than-life figures. Within a remarkably short time, Brock had gone from rookie to main event star, a feat few had ever achieved with such speed and impact. Wrestling style and reputation. Brock's wrestling style was unlike anything fans had seen before. While many performers leaned heavily on theatrics and storytelling, Brock's matches felt like legitimate fights. He wrestled with an intensity that blurred the line between scripted entertainment and real combat. His German suplexes became a trademark, throwing opponents across the ring like rag dolls, while his devastating finishing move, the F5, showcased both power and precision. Watching Brock in the ring was like watching a predator stalk and dismantle prey, methodical, brutal, and efficient. This authenticity became both his strength and his burden. Fans loved him because his matches carried a sense of danger and realism that few others could replicate. Every time Brock stepped through the ropes, the atmosphere changed. The audience knew they were about to see something violent, something unforgettable. But this same intensity also took a toll on his opponents, with some critics pointing out that his hard-hitting style sometimes led to real injuries. Whether loved or hated, Brock Lesnar's reputation as a genuine powerhouse, the Beast Incarnate, was cemented early in his career. Transition to the NFL dream, just when it seemed Brock's career in WWE could only go upward, he stunned the wrestling world with a decision that few saw coming. In 2004, at the height of his stardom, Brock walked away from WWE to pursue a new challenge: professional football. Though he hadn't played since high school, Brock believed his athleticism and drive could carry him into the NFL. His journey, however, would not be easy. Tragedy struck before he could even make his mark. A serious motorcycle accident left him with a broken jaw, hand, and other injuries just before he was set to train with the Minnesota Vikings. Despite the setback, Brock refused to give up. He healed quickly, pushed through pain, and still managed to earn a spot at training camp. His sheer athletic ability turned heads, and he even suited up for preseason games. Ultimately, though, the time away from football and the injuries proved too much, and he was cut before the regular season. Though the NFL dream slipped away, the attempt revealed something crucial about Brock Lesnar: his refusal to be boxed into one identity. He wasn't content to simply be a wrestling star. He wanted to test himself against the best in every arena possible, no matter the risk of failure. The return of the Beast. A new era begins. When Brock Lesnar returned to WWE in 2012, it felt less like the comeback of a former star and more like the arrival of a force of nature. Nearly a decade had passed since he had first walked away from professional wrestling to chase other ambitions, and many wondered if the next big thing from the early 2000s still had the same fire. They got their answer the moment he stormed into the ring on Raw, grabbed John Cena, and flattened him with an F5. It was a shocking, visceral reminder that Lesnar wasn't coming back to be a nostalgia act. He was coming back to dominate. That first night set the tone for a second WWE run unlike anything the industry had seen before. Brock was not going to wrestle every week, cut long promos, or entertain fans with constant appearances. Instead, his presence would be rare, his matches devastating, and his aura protected. This approach instantly made him feel special in a business where overexposure often waters down even the brightest stars. The centerpiece of this new era came in 2014 at WrestleMania 30, where Brock Lesnar did the unthinkable. He ended The Undertaker's legendary undefeated streak. For more than 2 decades, the dead man's WrestleMania record had been sacred, a streak that felt untouchable. But in one match, Lesnar ripped away that mystique, leaving over 75,000 fans in stunned silence. Commentators were speechless. The audience sat in disbelief, and memes of shocked fan reactions flooded the internet. Overnight, Brock became more than a part-time attraction. He became the man who had done what no one else could. That victory, perhaps more than any championship he ever won, defined his second WWE run and cemented his reputation as the most dangerous man in professional wrestling. Wrestling on his own terms. What made Brock Lesnar's comeback unique wasn't just what he accomplished, but how he did it. Unlike most wrestlers who grind through hundreds of matches a year, Lesnar negotiated a part-time contract that allowed him to appear only when it truly mattered. To fans accustomed to seeing top stars week after week, this was a shock. Some were frustrated, believing he didn't deserve his spot if he wasn't putting in the same work as others. But over time, even many of his critics had to admit the genius behind it. Every Brock Lesnar appearance felt like a major event because it was rare. His matches carried a sense of unpredictability and danger, and the aura around him grew stronger the less often he was seen. This arrangement also gave Brock something most wrestlers never achieve: control over his own career. Instead of allowing the business to consume him physically and mentally, he wrestled on his terms. He trained like an elite athlete, prepared for big matches as if they were world title fights, and recovered fully between appearances. In doing so, he prolonged his career, avoided unnecessary wear and tear, and kept himself from falling into the cycle that leaves so many wrestlers broken by the time they reach their 40s. Brock became less of a weekly television character and more of a once-in-a-while spectacle, and WWE built entire storylines around his limited schedule. Fans may not have seen him every Monday, but when his music hit, the anticipation was unlike anything else in the company. Financial success and lifestyle choices. Behind the intimidation and spectacle, Brock Lesnar has always been a man who makes smart, calculated decisions. Financially, he has managed his career with a businessman's mindset, ensuring that every appearance, every fight, and every deal worked in his favor. His WWE contracts placed him among the highest paid wrestlers in the company, despite working far fewer dates than his peers. Add to that his UFC success, where he headlined pay-per-views that drew millions of buys and endorsements along the way, and it becomes clear why his net worth sits comfortably in the tens of millions. Yet for all that wealth, Brock Lesnar doesn't live the flashy, extravagant lifestyle many athletes adopt. While others spend fortunes on mansions in Los Angeles or luxury cars lined up in garages, Brock chose something different. He lives quietly on a farm in Saskatchewan, Canada, alongside his wife, former WWE star Sable, and their children. His day-to-day life involves working the land, hunting, fishing, and enjoying the isolation of rural life. To outsiders, it may seem unusual that one of the most recognizable athletes in the world prefers tractors to Lamborghinis, but for Brock, it's a reflection of his values. He never craved the spotlight outside of the ring. Fame was simply a byproduct of his abilities, not something he actively sought. His farm provides him with the privacy and simplicity he treasures, a stark contrast to the chaos of arenas filled with tens of thousands of fans chanting his name. Rumors of financial and personal struggles. With a figure as polarizing as Brock Lesnar, rumors are inevitable. Over the years, speculation has swirled around his finances, his willingness to return to UFC, and his motivations for renegotiating WWE contracts. Some critics have painted these moves as desperation for cash, hinting at financial instability. But those who understand Brock's business sense see it differently. Lesnar has always been a shrewd negotiator, leveraging his star power to maximize his value. If he dangled the possibility of a UFC comeback while negotiating with WWE, it wasn't because he needed the money. It was because he understood supply and demand better than most. His tendency to step away from the spotlight for months at a time also fueled gossip. Some wondered if he was hiding deeper personal struggles or battling behind-the-scenes issues. In truth, it was simply Brock being Brock. He valued his family and his health above all else, and when the business became too much, he didn't hesitate to walk away. This was the same man who left WWE in 2004 at the height of his first run, shocking the industry because he wanted to try something else. To Brock, walking away has never been failure. It has been freedom. Balancing health and career in later years. As Brock Lesnar entered his late 40s, it became impossible to ignore the toll decades of combat sports had taken on his body. His battle with diverticulitis, a serious intestinal disease, was nearly career-ending and left lasting effects on his health. Years of suplexes, slams, and grueling UFC training camps added further wear. Yet somehow, Brock continued to maintain a physique and presence that few men half his age could match. Standing at nearly 300 pounds of muscle and moving with the agility of someone much smaller, he remained one of the most intimidating athletes in wrestling well into his 40s. WWE recognized the need to protect their investment and reduced his schedule accordingly. Instead of wrestling every week, Brock was featured in fewer matches, each one treated as a major spectacle. This not only helped manage his health, but also kept his aura intact. Critics complained that his absences hurt the product, but the truth was that limiting his exposure was the only way to keep him effective in the long run. In the process, Brock extended his career by years, perhaps even decades, proving that pacing and preservation can be just as important as brute force. Legacy in professional wrestling. When the history of professional wrestling is written, Brock Lesnar's name will occupy a unique place. He isn't just another multiple-time WWE champion, though he certainly holds that distinction. He isn't just a box office draw, though few have sold as many tickets and pay-per-views. He is the man who blurred the line between sports and sports entertainment more effectively than almost anyone else. His amateur wrestling background, his legitimate UFC success, and his imposing presence gave him an aura of legitimacy that most wrestlers could never achieve. Lesnar also changed WWE's business model. His part-time contract paved the way for future stars to negotiate lighter schedules with big paychecks, showing that scarcity could be just as valuable as consistency. His victory over The Undertaker at WrestleMania became one of the defining moments of modern wrestling history, and his dominance as a character shaped the way the company booked major matches for over a decade. Whether fans cheered him, booed him, or resented his limited appearances, they could never ignore him. Family and personal life. Beyond the suplexes and spotlight, Brock Lesnar is a husband, father, and family man. Married to Sable since 2006, the couple has built a private life together in rural Canada. They have 2 sons, Turk and Duke, and Brock also has older children from previous relationships, including his daughter Maya and son Luke. Family has always been Brock's anchor, the reason he has repeatedly stepped away from fame to focus on what matters most. Life on the farm gives Brock something that wrestling and fighting never could: peace. He spends his days away from cameras, raising his kids and living a lifestyle rooted in hard work and simplicity. Unlike many of his peers, he does not seek out autograph sessions, reality shows, or media appearances. For Brock, the greatest victory has been building a life where he can be both the beast in the ring and a father at home. Brock Lesnar's resilience as a theme. If there is one word that defines Brock Lesnar's life and career, it is resilience. Time and again, he has faced obstacles, illness, injuries, criticism, and doubt, and come back stronger. From a small-town boy in Webster, South Dakota, to an NCAA Wrestling Champion, a WWE megastar, a UFC Heavyweight Champion, and back again, his journey has been filled with both triumphs and trials. His battle with diverticulitis revealed his vulnerability, but his recovery proved his strength. His financial choices demonstrated wisdom in an industry notorious for bankrupting its performers. Through it all, Brock has endured, adapted, and thrived. Final reflections. Brock Lesnar's story is not just about championships, broken streaks, or main event paydays. It is about a man who pushed his body to the limit, faced down illness and doubt, and carved a path defined on his own terms. From Webster, South Dakota, to global stardom, his journey is one of perseverance, ambition, and survival. As he enters the twilight of his career, his legacy is already secure. He will be remembered not only as the Beast Incarnate, but as one of the most dominant and resilient athletes ever to step into a wrestling ring.